would be broken. His blood, like the expensive perfume, would be poured out. What the woman did with her hands, Jesus would soon do with his life. The cross, then, wasn't a tragic loss of something valuable. It was a necessary breaking through which life was released. Just as the fragrance couldn't fill the room without the jar shattering, salvation didn't come without Christ being completely given over. The woman might not have understood everything, but her actions aligned with the truth before her words ever could. While the others argued, calculated, and resisted the idea of a suffering Messiah, she responded with costly, irreversible devotion. And Jesus received it, not as waste, not as excess, but as recognition. Because the gospel itself follows the same pattern, what was most precious was broken, so that life, forgiveness, and grace could be poured out upon the whole earth through the atonement of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and Redeemer of all mankind. For this someday all will be resurrected, and every knee will bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus is the Christ. Amen.
Anyone else with something to share?
I know, I was the contact.
The way he teaches is helping me in a lot of things that I understand. In Matthew 13, talks about parables. And I got a better understanding of why so many disciples started speaking in parables. Because it was just for those who hear the word, who receive the word, and do not act on it, that was taken away. Because if you want to understand it, you will either be hungry for the word, or you'll be angry and walk away. And as the body of Christ, we're supposed to help them. They don't see, they don't hear. Because that's our job, is to help us to bring the word of God. We've had 107 guests. Today is February 15th. 90% of those will be in. 107 families are grieving. With our outreach, we really hadn't delved into doing a whole lot of things, but I want to put it on everybody's heart to come up with something that we as a church can do. Whether it be donations to the Christmas, volunteers, marching in this thing, and I want to give a few less $3,000 stuff. They don't readily have an argument. So when someone overdoses at a prison and they don't have something that can so simply say why, that breaks my heart. That's all I got.
Well, I'm gonna attempt, and I've got plenty of time, so if I fail, it's not that. To talk to y'all about the story of Esther, as recorded in the Bible. And of course, like usual, I've got here with the King James Version, so some of the names may actually be different in your version. Says it came to pass in the days of King Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. His Greek name was Xerxes, so you probably heard that more often than you have the name that's spelled out in the King James Version. In those days, when the king sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Susan, or sometimes spelled S-U-S-A, same place, a place that Daniel, part of his dreams were about. a land not at Babylon, but not too far from Babylon. And in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast. And this feast lasted 180 days. That figures up to about 6 months. He brought in all the high-ranking people in the world, in his kingdom, and some say he was probably trying to plan for a war. But during this time, he did show off the riches and the glory of his kingdom and the majesty thereof. After this 180 days, he threw a 7-day feast with alcohol. And it says no one was compelled to drink, but everyone who wanted to could drink all the wine they wanted. And during this 7 days, it says, well, the king's heart was merry. In other words, he had more to drink than he really needed. That he decided to call for the queen, whose name was Vashti, to come and entertain the people. Well, Vashti was throwing a little feast for the women of the court, and she didn't see the need to go in there to entertain the men. So she refused. Now this did not sit well with the king, but he didn't make any decision. He asked the others around him about what should he do about Vashti refusing to obey his command. Well, this named several people who were there, but one of them, that the best I can pronounce his name is Memucan, spoke up and said that needed to do away with Vashti as queen, not allow her to be queen anymore, and replace her with someone else. The Memucan's reasoning behind all this leads me to believe that he wasn't worried about whether Vashti disobeyed or not. He was more worried about whether his wife was going to take that as an example. And he wanted her to, next time he said jump, to just say how high. So anyway, the king agreed to take the crown of the queen away from Vashti. And then it says a period of time passed, and he thought about Vashti again and what she had done, and about that they didn't have a queen. So he said, what do we need to do? Instead of making a decision himself, again, he asked for advice. Maybe that's good, maybe not. Sometimes someone needs to make a decision on their own. Sometimes they need to ask for advice. Wisdom comes in knowing which one. Well, the advice was to gather all the young maidens that they could get to the palace, and each one of them would be a year in preparation to go spend the night with the king. So another year passes while they're making all their preparations. It doesn't name It doesn't say how many of these young women, young maidens, it says virgins, were gathered up and waiting a chance to go spend one night with the king, which gives you a little bit of insight into why polygamy is wrong. A whole year of waiting, and some was gonna wait longer. But one of the young ladies was, I'll tell you what her name was, except I can't think of it. But she was also called Esther. And she was a young Jewish girl in a Gentile land. Her parents apparently had died, and she was being raised by a kinsman, and he advised her to not tell anyone that she was a Jew. I guess Mordecai, her kinsman, felt like that would be held against her, and probably would have been. But as it turns out, when it came her turn to spend the night with the king, he was enamored with her, and he did decide that she would be the queen. So a new queen is now chosen. He doesn't know she's a Jewess. May not even care, but he doesn't know. Well, also about this time, two of the men who waited upon the king decided that the king needed to be killed, and they needed to kind of run things themselves. But Mordecai found out about this and told Esther, who told the king. They did their investigation, and these two people were found guilty, and they were hanged. Let's put a stop to that. It was also written down in the books, the Chronicles of the King, at that time, that Mordecai had been responsible for saving the king. But nothing was done to repay Mordecai at that time. Time rocks on a little while. Haman is promoted by the king. Haman, he feels all puffed up and prideful, to say the least. And the king has honored him and told everybody that they had to bow down to Haman. But Mordecai said he only bows down to God. That wording is not in the Bible. I put that in there, but that's basically what it amounts to. So Mordecai wouldn't bow down to Haman. Well, Haman's life is going great. The king is honoring him right and left, and he thinks everything is pretty much his way, except for the fact that Mordecai just won't bow down to him. So he goes home one day and he tells his family and his friends about how great the king is treating him and how great he is in the kingdom. He said everything would be 100% fine if it wasn't for that Jew Mordecai that just won't bow down to me. He said, everything else is lovely, but he said, I can't stand that. So his wife and some friends advised that he build a gallows and get the king's permission and just hang Mordecai and get rid of him. So he built a gallows that says 75 cubits high. No, I'm wrong. It says 50 cubits high, which would be 75 feet. So even I make mistakes sometimes. He's got the gallows built during the night, but during the same night, the king couldn't sleep. And he had the book of the Chronicles brought and read to him. And it's read to him where Mordecai had basically saved his life. By then it's getting along toward morning. And he said, what? He said, who is in the outer court? They said, Haman's out there. Bring Haman in. To Haman he says, what should be done for the person the king wishes to honor? Haman's puffed up some now. He thinks there ain't nobody the king wants to honor any more than me. So he tells the king, your clothing that you have worn should be brought. Your crown should be brought. Your horse should be brought. All this should be put on, all this clothing and crown should be put on the one you wish to honor. Set him on your horse, and then a leading person in the kingdom, somebody that's pretty high up, needs to lead this horse and this person that you wish to honor through the town, proclaiming that this is what happens to the one that the king wants to honor. And Haman was sure it was going to be him. And Haman, the king says, get Mordecai and do for him. That's exactly what you said. Don't let any part of it escape. He did, because the king told him he had to. But it made him feel pretty bad. As soon as he had done it, he ran home. Told his wife and his friends again about what had happened. But this time he wasn't very joyful about it. Apparently his wife told him, if you have fallen this much, you're in bad trouble. Well, about that time, Haman is summoned to come to the banquet that Esther has prepared, because she had specifically asked the day before that only the king and Haman come to a banquet that she had prepared, and her request to the king was only that the two would come back again the next day. Well, this is the second day that Esther has prepared a banquet. And the king keeps asking her, what is it you'd like? Anything you want, up to half the kingdom is yours. Just tell me what you want. So she did. She said, it's been determined that me and my people shall all be killed. The plan's already in works. And she said, I beg for my life and my people's life. The king said, who would do such a thing? And she said, this wicked Haman. Now the king is upset with Haman. But the king goes outside to think this over. And when he comes back in, Haman has fallen on the bed next to Esther. And the king says, on top of everything else, will he force my wife right here in front of me? The Bible says that was when they covered Haman's face, which study tells me means he was going to be hung. The king then was advised that the gallows that Haman had built to hang Mordecai on was ready and waiting. So they hung Mordecai. They hung Haman. Now, since the law of the Medes and Persians can't be changed, and it's already set in motion that in the 12th month, the people will kill all the Jews they can find throughout the kingdom. Well, Esther asked, what can be done? Can't something be done to change this? The king gave his signet ring to Mordecai and said, write in my name whatever and send it out to my whole kingdom. He's basically what he wrote was, be ready and defend yourself. Don't just let them slaughter you. Of course, God's name is not written in the book of Esther anywhere. But you can see his hand working throughout the book of Esther. So the people, the Jewish people, prepare to defend themselves. And I'm sure with God's help, they killed thousands of the others, and the Jews were not harmed. And I've left out a bunch of it. Y'all want to study the book of Esther this weekend and get the rest of it, but I've kind of hit the high parts of it. Once more. And then if you look back through history, you can find lots of instances where someone has determined to kill all the Jews. Especially happened several times before Christ, because it was prophesied that Jesus would be born of the Jews. If they could kill every last one of them, then Jesus couldn't be born. So Satan's been working this tactic for a long time. There are still too many people in this world who hate someone else simply because of their race. We've seen it play out a lot of times. This world is down on the Jews again right now, to a great deal. But they got news for them. They cannot exterminate God's people. They can kill lots of them, but they can't exterminate them. You have time this week, and you think about it. one person that I communicate with very often on text messages told me that studying the book of Esther was very enlightening. See things that I haven't brought out. You see things that, well, you read it again, you read it 3 times, you'll see something else that you hadn't seen before, because God will show you something. Instead of hating, we need to love. And that's basically what I'm gonna say for today. Michael, would you dismiss us for prayer?